let's have a talk about one Quentin Tarantino. And before I even start with the reasons why I'm making this video, I want to make two things very clear. I guess these should be called my full disclosures. I'm not a fan of Quentin Tarantino movies. Now, if you talk to anybody in my family, you will get a very strange sense of what I like in movies because I don't really care for violence in movies, but I love 3000. I mean, not 3,300. I don't know. There's something about Quentin Tarantino movies that feels like you're trying to be smarter than me and capture that on camera and be a mad genius, and I just don't. I can't relate. I can't relate to any of his movies or the positions that his characters put themselves in or any of it. I can't relate to it. Having said that, the other thing I want to say before I start talking about what he said or did or whatever is that I'm also not a big fan of Marvel movies. Now, there are some Marvel movies that I absolutely love. Ironically, and you'll see why I'm saying ironically in a minute, I find them even more interesting because of who's playing the character. And I'm giving you the three main characters that I love watching. And that would be, not counting Chadwick Boseman because unfortunately he passed away, but the ones that are still living. My three favorite characters are Doctor Strange, because I'm a huge Benedict Cumberbatch fan. Robert Downey Jr. because I grew up with him, and of course that means Iron Man. And last but not least, Loki. And yes, I'm a huge fan of Tom Hiddleston, even if I can't say his name. But I'm not a really big fan. I'm actually pretty tired of all the movies and the shows and the whole nine yards, especially when my husband's a huge fan. So if they're on TV streaming, I have to at least hear them the whole time. It's kind of like his obsession with Star Wars and his obsession with Star Trek. His obsession with Marvel is just one of those things that, oh my God, I'm just tired of it. But having said that, let's take two things that Quentin Tarantino has gone popping off on Twitter about. I mean, he didn't do it necessarily to himself, but let's just say it made him notable this week. So the first one is the easy one. Quentin Tarantino has disputed the stardom of Marvel actors like Chris Hemsworth. They're not movie stars. It's these franchise characters that become a star. And the full quote says, part of the Marvelization of Hollywood is you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters, but they're not movie stars, right? Captain America is the star, or Thor is the star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. I think that's been said a zillion times. But it's like, it's these franchise characters that become a star. First of all, for someone that admits that when he was a kid, he collected every single comic, they are already the star before you make the movie. So, no. Second of all, Captain America, Chris Evans, already had a career when he decided to play Captain America. Now, Captain America put him on a different level in terms of people recognizing him. But he had a career because he was, an actor. Chris Hemsworth was not popular here in the United States, but he actually had jobs back home. And let's see, didn't I just mention Robert Downey Jr., who had an amazing career before he even became Iron Man? If I keep going, Doctor Strange, aka Benedict Cumberbatch, was, Sherlock. He's done millions of other movies. Well, not millions, but you know what I mean. He's done I can't say the name of this movie to save my life. Tinker, Soldier, Tailor, Spy. I'm saying it wrong, but you know what I'm trying to say. He has done a lot of other movies, and he played Assange in a movie. He's played a lot of other characters, so I don't see where this guy goes off. But of course, he had to add himself to the list of names because notable among them are big-name, heavily established Hollywood directors such as Denis Villeneuve and Martin Scorsese, the later of whom infamously slated that Marvel movies aren't examples of cinema. And now another directing icon gave his thoughts on the MCU. Let me be very clear. Whenever I hear anybody, I don't care what company they're from or whatever, talking bad about the competition, I know that they're scared. When I was growing up, my dad was a salesman for IBM. He sold their computers, and back in those days, the computers were roomfuls of computers. It was not like a little thing that you hold in your hand. In fact, I've made the comment before that when I finally got him to listen to Pandora on his cell phone, I got him a smartphone because he refused to give up his Nokia until we couldn't replace it anymore. And of course, now that he's dead, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, I don't know if you heard it, but that was my cell phone in the background. When he finally passed away, after he passed away, Nokia came back. But that's a story for another day. The bottom line is this: the computers were so huge, and one day he sat down and told me that a computer that would take the space of my entire apartment could now fit in his hand, and he always marveled at that. But anyway, I don't even know what I was trying to say. What I'm trying to say, yeah, I just remember what I was trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that one of the things that I learned from my dad very early on in the game is that no matter how much you sit at home and trash every other computer company in existence, you don't say that to your clients. The reason why is because number one, you're putting the name in their head, which is not a good idea. And number two, and more importantly, you're showing insecurity. If you are so sure that your company is the best and that your products are the best, you really don't need to, I don't know, brag by bringing somebody else down. Now, I have followed that strategy my entire life. Whenever I worked in a company, if there was something we didn't have at the moment and I knew the customer needed it right that moment, I would send them to a competition. Two reasons for that. Number one, I was solving their problem immediately, which is what they really care about. And number two, I had a customer for life because they knew that I would never lie to them, because when they really needed me in a pinch, they got the best of me. Why am I bringing all that up? Because Quentin Tarantino, just like Martin Scorsese, and I can't even say his name today, Martin Scorsese, and the other guy, Denevuve, or however you say his name, have one thing in common. They are all bashing a genre of movies, I guess, that they're not really good at. Now, far be it for me to, you know, get into the comparison, but sometimes when you look at Kill Bill, it looks like he was doing a superhero movie. I'm just saying. So, how are you going to bash something that you've done before? Wait. Didn't he do something that used to be an anime, or not an anime, but a graphic novel? I think it was called From Dawn Till Dusk. So what the hell is he talking about? Oh, because his movies are not as popular as the Marvel Universe movies, which break records? See where I'm going with this? It's the insecurity and the inability to just grow with the times. I don't know how much you know about the past, but Superman movies happened before the Marvel Universe and DC Comics became what they are right now. In fact, when my dad was growing up, there were superhero movies. And my dad's been gone for years, and he would have turned 90 in 2019 had he been alive. So, this whole idea that we cannot have superhero movies, and again, remember, I'm talking from the perspective of somebody that's sick of superhero movies at this point. And I still think, because just because I don't want to watch something doesn't mean I don't see the beauty or the work that goes into it. I mean, I have to take Wakanda and I have to set it apart, because for me, even though that is a superhero movie, that is so much more than a superhero movie in terms of everything. Not just the topic or the fact that it's almost entirely black cast, or there's so much more to that movie than just the fact that it's a superhero movie. So I'm not going to include that on what I'm talking about. But let's be real. these are not easy movies to make. And yes, there's a lot of CGI involved and whatnot, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. And for people who think that somebody sitting in front of a computer creating an environment, oh, that's the easy part, you've obviously never had to create something in a computer. Because if you had, you would know better. Now, the second point that I have to bring up about this particular set of comments about how superhero movies and how actors and blah, 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 that is very disrespectful because he actually zeroed in on Chris Hemsworth. And I realized that this interview happened a while back, and the announcement that Chris Hemsworth is leaving the movie business temporarily because he discovered a genetical thing that has to do with Alzheimer's. I, I realized that the timing sucks for Quentin Tarantino, and I am very much aware that the magazine decided to release this or leak this or whatever now because Hemsworth is in everybody's mind right now. But you're not giving the actors credit for the job that they do. And personally, I do believe that acting against a screen or something that isn't there is a lot harder than acting against an actor who can give you a reaction and you can go off of that. So the entire idea that these people are not actors and actresses and that the actual superhero, and I apologize, I don't know what the hell's going on upstairs, but they've been doing, they had stopped, that's why I decided to do this, and now I can hear them again. So if you hear them, my apologies, I don't know what's happening upstairs. Anyway, going back to the story, this whole idea that the superhero is the actual A-lister and whoever plays him is not is such a myopic way of looking at the movies themselves. And it's offensive to me. But then again, Quentin Tarantino is no stranger to being offensive because, in case you didn't know, and this is not the first time this man says something stupid, but Quentin Tarantino responds to critics upset over violence and the N-word in his movies. You should see something else. I'm not making them for you. Now, again, easy for me to pick on him because I don't like him. The only time I've ever liked them, if you've ever watched The Golden Girls, there is an episode where Sophia gets married and Rose Nyland confuses the list with an event that she was going to do in the wedding list. And they end up with like 50 Elvis impersonators at the wedding. That's the actual guests that show up at the wedding. If you actually pay attention to the most idiotic one of all the impersonators, that is one Quentin Tarantino. And he can deny it if he wants to because I don't even think he's on the... they gave him credit for that. But yeah, that's Quentin Tarantino. That's the only time I've ever liked Quentin Tarantino. I'm not a fan. But for this man who could have used a very simple excuse, especially with the last movie he did, which was about slavery. He could have very easily said, look, this is how the characters talk, and that's why I would rather use the real language. I don't want to sugarcoat it, or something to that effect. No, let's, I don't even know how to say it. Let's piss off the viewing audience by telling them that if you don't like what I do, then my movies are not for you. You're damn right your movies are not for me. I'm aware of that. Even before I noticed how much you like to use the N-word. But you see, here's the problem. We are currently in a world where people are basically separating the good actors like Rose Nyland, who passed Betty White, or Leslie Jordan, or Robin Williams. And let me pick a couple that are still alive, so you know. Dolly Parton, Chris Evans. People that are unproblematic from people like you who are using crappy excuses to do things that we have a feeling you do in your spare time for fun. The N-word being one of them. I don't know why you need to use the N-word in any of your movies. And I'm not saying that you have to have clean language, because if you like cursing, by all means, knock yourself out. But there are millions of curse words you can use without using that word. And yet you choose to use that word. And that makes me wonder why. If you yourself don't use it, do you really need that language? Anyway, I can't wait to see what you guys think about this, because this was just inspiration last minute. I was not even going to record today, but I really want to get to the bottom of how many of my people like this guy, and how many of them don't have a problem with him using that much N-words in his movies. Leave your comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.